After a long while, the falling heavenly stone suddenly cursed. Damn it! Hanju was stunned. He wasn't angry. Instead, he was amused. As expected of a connate life form, its learning ability was indeed very strong. Hanju smiled and asked, "Are you very angry?" The falling heavenly stone asked, "If it was you, wouldn't you be angry? Then, can I kill you?" After receiving Hanju's guidance, the falling heavenly stone knew what death meant. It was so frightened that its stone body trembled. It said angrily, "I didn't provoke you. Then, why are you hiding? You suddenly appeared out of nowhere. If it were you, wouldn't you hide? Then try? You are going too far." So, the falling heavenly stone wanted to cry. If not for the fact that it was a stone, it would have long cried. The falling heavenly stone was stunned. Overjoyed, it hurriedly thanked him. "Continue to absorb the spirit chi of heaven and earth. There won't be any danger in this area." Hanju left after saying this. With his current identity, there was no need for him to take in a disciple personally. In the following period of time, the disciples of the hidden sect returned. About 200 years later, all the disciples returned. Zhou Fan also returned. Hanju wasn't surprised. Zhao Shenyuan had already asked through the chaotic domain. Zhou Fan hadn't entered it at that time. After entering the 100-peak Immortal River, Zhou Fan looked around in surprise. Murongqi was very surprised to see him. He asked, "Why are you here?" Zhou Fan sized him up and was secretly shocked. This fellow was already an immortal emperor. In his memories, Murongqi was his junior brother in the Jade Pure Sacred sect. "I'm here to visit your grandmaster," Zhou Fan replied. Zhou Fan's arrival attracted the attention of the others, and they came over to check. He was secretly shocked. He couldn't see through Lu Bu, Ma Chao, and the others. He even saw Jiang Yi. Read the latest stories, and Nov calm he had seen Jiang Yi before. At that time, Jiang Yi was high-spirited, a genius whose name shook the immortal world. He didn't expect him to have also joined the hidden sect. Zhou Fan noticed the 10,000 nether race beings and was even more shocked. The weakest was a Grand Unity Golden Immortal. A few had already reached the Immortal Emperor realm. Impossible! The hidden sect was already so powerful? When Zhou Fan was brought to Hanju's Daoist temple, he came back to his senses. "Go in by yourself." Zhao Shenyuan turned around and left. He still had to hurry up and cultivate. Zhou Fan took a deep breath and carefully walked into the Daoist temple. A dazzling divine light blinded him, then he saw Hanju. Hanju sat on the 36th grade reincarnation world destruction Black Lotus. The sun and moon yin-yang protection floated behind him like two suns spinning behind him, emitting a bright light. Zhou Fan's heart churned with immense shock. He was already at the two mystic divine origin realm, but he couldn't see Hanju's true appearance. This was even stronger than those unparalleled mighty figures. Zhou Fan immediately thought of the sages. When he first saw a sage, he couldn't see his true appearance either. Hanju asked, "What? You don't recognize me anymore?" Zhou Fan smiled bitterly. He had suffered a huge blow. He felt that his thousands of years of hard work were a joke in front of Hanju. Look at him. He had been cultivating in seclusion, and the difference in their cultivation was becoming greater and greater. Zhou Fan forced a smile and said, "Hanju, you're really powerful now. You're about to attain the Tao, right?" Hanju smiled and said, "How can that be? It's still early. Are you looking for me to join my hidden sect?" "Sure. Do you want to take me in as your disciple?" "It's not that you can't, but from now on, you have to go out less. In your opinion, am I just messing around? The difference in our potential is too great. I can only fight." Sigh. Zhou Fan fell into depression. The divine light on Hanju's body increased greatly. His voice was unfathomable. "You already have the chaotic physique and are no longer the past you. Why don't you join my hidden sect and cultivate in seclusion? Zhou Fan's future was limitless. If he could repent, he would definitely be a powerful force in the hidden sect. Zhou Fan fell into a daze. Several days later, Zhou Fan walked out of Hanju's Taoist temple. He looked up at the blue sky and smiled brightly. The black-held chicken flew over and shouted, "Brat, are you still leaving?" It remembered Zhou Fan, who had visited Hanju more than 8,000 years ago. Zhou Fan also remembered the black-held chicken and smiled. "I'm not leaving. In the future, I'm the 8th disciple of the 2nd generation of the hidden sect. Treat me with more respect." "Hee, I don't even respect Zhao Shenyuan. What makes you think I'll respect you? Believe it or not, I'll beat you up. If you have the ability, go to the simulation trial. You will only be qualified to fight me when you are invincible in the hidden sect." "Humph, that's what I was thinking," Zhou Fan said proudly. Hanju had already pulled him into the simulation trial, and he wanted to try it. After bidding farewell to the black-held chicken, Zhou Fan found an empty spot to build a Taoist temple and started the simulation trial. The first person he challenged was Hanju. He was insta-killed. Zhou Fan was stunned. How can this be? Zhou Fan gritted his teeth. He didn't believe it and challenged Hanju again. After hundreds of challenges, Zhou Fan was in despair. He gave up and began to challenge the other disciples. He would challenge the black-held chicken first. Damn it! Wasn't this dog-like chicken too weak? Why was it so arrogant? Just like that, Zhou Fan was obsessed with the simulation trial and could not extricate himself. On the other side, Zhou Minghua found the falling heavenly stone and picked it up. Hey, what are you doing? The falling heavenly stone shouted. Zhou Minghua snorted. Grand Master asked me to take you in as my disciple. From now on, you are my disciple. My name is Zhou Minghua. I see. What's your Grand Master's name? Han Zhu, but you can't call him by his name. Han Zhu. From now on, I'll be called Han Zui Tian. Wow, you're quite good at cozying up to others. That's a good name. Zhou Minghua chuckled. He had no objections to this. Instead, he was very satisfied. Not to mention the falling heavenly stone, even he wanted to change his surname to Han. However, without Hanju's approval, he was too embarrassed to change it. Furthermore, his master, Chu Shiren, did not allow it. The first 5th generation disciple of the hidden sect had appeared. Connate life form, Han Zui Tian. 20 years later, Jiang Yi came to visit Hanju, who let him in. Like Zhou Fan, he was blinded by the strong light of the sun and moon yin-yang protection. He knelt in front of Hanju and said, "Sect Master, I can't break through to the deity realm. Can you guide me?" What light was this? How domineering! Jiang Yi secretly decided that he would do the same when he returned. Hanju said, "Then, I'll preach the Tao for you." Jiang Yi was pleasantly surprised and hurriedly thanked him. Hanju began to preach. With Jiang Yi's potential, breaking through to the deity realm was not difficult. He was originally the #1 prodigy of the Golden Crow Divine Clan, but he lacked guidance. Speaking of which, Zhou Fan surpassed Jiang Yi and reached the deity realm ahead of time. This made Hanju sigh. Sometimes, wandering about was still important. Unless Jiang Yi's potential was the same as Hanju's and was unparalleled, just cultivating alone was really not comparable to Zhou Fan. The 3rd generation disciples were Murongqi, Fang Liang, and Chu Shiren. The 4th generation disciples were Zhou Minghua and Lu Huaxiu. And the 5th generation disciple was Han Zui Tian. These were all Hanju's orthodox disciples. Apart from them, Li Yao, Jiang Yi, Diamond Rage, the Black Hell Demon Lord, Tao Comprehension Sword, the Han Brothers, Da, Shao Air, the Black Hell Chicken, the Chaotic Heavenly Dog, the Three-Headed Wyrm King, Xing Hongshen, Fairy Xixian, Chang Yuer, and the others could only be considered hidden sect disciples and not Hanju's personal disciples. Currently, the disciples of the hidden sect, including the Nether race, were at least Grand Unity Golden Immortals. Although Fairy Xixian and Chang Yue were mortals, they often heard Hanju preach the Tao. In addition, the dense spirit Qi in the Tao field had already reached the Grand Unity Golden Immortal realm. However, whether they could reach the Emperor realm depended on luck. After reaching the Grand Unity Golden Immortal realm, it was difficult to say anything else. Even if Hanju was a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal, he couldn't create an immortal emperor with a flip of his hand. After Zhou Fan joined, the originally relaxed hidden sect became tense again. It was only because of Zhou Fan's two mystic divine origin cultivation. This fellow wasn't even 9,000 years old. Such potential filled Jiang Yi, Li Yao, Tu Linger, and the other disciples with pressure. Hanju still explained the Tao to the disciples when he had the time. 50 years later, Jiang Yi had reached the deity realm and did not need to transcend the tribulation in the Tao field, but everyone could sense his powerful aura. The next disciple to break through to the deity realm should be Li Yao. This woman was chasing after him very closely. If not for her terrifying cultivation speed, Jiang Yi might not have been able to break through so quickly. On this day, purple light appeared in the sky. It was endless and beautiful as a painting. Hanju felt a powerful aura. Someone had reached the Zenith Heaven realm. All living beings in the heavenly Tao were extinct. Those who survived were mighty figures who surpassed mortals. They would also be legendary figures who would shake the world in the future. Hanju didn't care who had attained the Zenith Heaven realm. Currently, other than the Sage Fated Secrets, he didn't have any enemies. Sage Fated Secrets was a sage. It was impossible for him to reach the Zenith Heaven realm. Hanju continued cultivating to break through to the pseudo-sage realm. It had been nearly 1,000 years since his last breakthrough, but Hanju was still a distance away from the pseudo-sage realm. His cultivation speed was still too slow. However, Hanju didn't have a faster way. He could only remind himself to be down to earth. On this day, the ground shook violently. The 100-peak Immortal River was not affected because of the Tao field, but Hanju clearly felt the ground outside the Tao field trembling. The range of the vibration was very wide. Hanju scanned with his divine sense. It was equivalent to dozens of reroll world. Earthquake? Or was something big about to happen? Hanju was secretly curious. He immediately asked in his mind, I want to know if there is a mighty figure in the current immortal world who has the strength to kill me? 2 billion years will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief. That was fine. He closed his eyes and continued cultivating. Under the sea of clouds, the endless land shook. The mountains and rivers were split apart. A bottomless valley stretched for 10 million miles. A huge eye appeared in the depths of the valley. It was cold and sinister, and its pupils trembled. Roar! A deafening dragon roar suddenly resounded through the world. A huge dragon head stretched out from the sea of clouds. Its eyes were larger than mountains, as if it could devour the world with a single mouthful. It was a black dragon. The black dragon looked down at the eyes in the valley, killing intent erupting from its own eyes. Boom! The black dragon suddenly swooped down, stirring up a terrifying wind that tore apart the sea of clouds. The ground was directly pierced by its massive body, and rubble shot into the sky. At the 100-peak Immortal River, a group of hidden sect disciples gathered on the highest peak. Their vision was extraordinary, and they could see the terrifying battle in the distance. That dragon is so big. Could it be a Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal? Zhou Mingwei asked in shock. Chu Shuren frowned and said, True Dragon Race, 9 Heavens AOU. The Black Hell Chicken asked curiously, Is 9 Heavens AOU very strong? A rare Zenith Heaven of the True Dragon Race. He's in existence on the same level as the Heavenly Emperor. Chu Shuren seemed to have thought of something, and his expression grew extremely ugly. Jiang Yi cursed, I know him. This dog often bullied our Golden Crow Divine clan in the past. I'm curious about the existence of the ferocious beast he's fighting. Zhao Xianyuan frowned and said, this beast's body is like black mist and occasionally deforms. Could it be one of the 4 beasts of the legends, Chaos? Chaos? Everyone was shocked. The 4 beasts were extremely distant legends. It was said that when the sun had just risen, there were no sages preaching. There were no races. All living beings were ferocious beasts. They were muddle-headed and had no civilization or communication. There was only the survival of the fittest. The 4 beasts were the 4 strongest beasts among the endless beasts. Swallowing the sun and absorbing the sea was nothing difficult to them. EA was. His chapter is update D by NOVE, L, by Co MEMS. The Black Hell Demon Lord sighed. It seems that the restart of the Heavenly Tao is not as good as we imagined. The terrifying existence that was suppressed in the past might also appear. Before the races stand, we have to guide the killing instincts of connate life forms. Everyone continued to discuss. They weren't nervous or uneasy. Nothing would happen to them if they stayed in the 100-peak Immortal River. Time passed. Another 100 years passed. 3 lines of words suddenly appeared in front of Hanju, who was cultivating. Detected that the Heavenly Tao Ferocious Beast era is coming. You have the following choices. 1. Come out immediately and kill all the ferocious beasts. You can obtain a mystical power inheritance, a great Tao fragment, and the hatred of a Heavenly Tao sage. 2. Cultivate in a low-profile manner and do not participate in the battle of ferocious beasts. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a mystical power inheritance. Needless to say, Hanju definitely couldn't offend a sage. Thus, he directly chose the second option. He only wanted to cultivate well and not cause trouble. You chose to cultivate in a low-profile manner and obtained a great Tao fragment and a mystical power inheritance. Congratulations on obtaining the Sword Tao Mystical Power 10,000 Life Sword. 10,000 Life Sword, Great Tao Mystical Power. Transforming all things in the world into a sword. Its attack is vast and its killing power is terrifying. It had been a long time since he had comprehended a Sword Tao Mystical Power. Furthermore, it was a great Tao Mystical Power. Not bad, not bad. Hanju immediately inherited the 10,000 Life Sword. He had currently obtained 2 great Tao Mystical Powers, the Grand Unity Aspect and the 10,000 Life Sword. Hanju had already experienced the power of the chaotic fiend celestial Dharma idols. Now, when facing enemies, he would directly use the chaotic fiend celestial Dharma idols to suppress them. It was simple, rough, and extremely satisfying. He had an invincible aura. The 10,000 Life Sword was also a great Tao mystical power, which meant that it was not inferior to the Grand Unity Aspect. Hanju was looking forward to it. Immediately after, an enormous amount of memories surged into Hanju's mind. Even he, who was at the perfected Zenith Golden Immortal Realm, felt like his head was about to explode. This comprehension lasted for 3 years. Hanju finally mastered and grasped the 10,000 Life Sword. The 10,000 Life Sword could turn everything in the world into a sword. At his command, it could kill enemies. If his cultivation was strong enough, he could turn everything in the Heavenly Tao into a sword with a thought. It was extremely domineering. Hanju started the simulation trial. The simulation trial could create a venue based on the trial taker's imagination. Hanju imagined a vast world. With a thought, the mountains and rivers transformed into huge swords that soared into the sky. The trees on the ground transformed into wooden swords. Even the lakes and seas transformed into swords. In the blink of an eye, everything in front of him transformed into swords of different colors. It was as if the entire world was made of swords. The scene was extremely shocking. Read the latest stories, and NOV been calm. Although the 10,000 Life Sword was strong, it couldn't break through the essence of Dharmic powers. In addition, the 10,000 Life Sword had another fatal flaw. He couldn't use it in the void. There was nothing in the void. He couldn't transform nothing into a sword. If it was in the world, the 10,000 life sword would be more lethal than the chaotic body, but it was not as stable as the chaotic body and couldn't be used everywhere. No matter what, Hanju had grasped two great Tao mystical powers. He could be considered to have completely sat on the number one throne below the sages. Hanju didn't feel proud and continued cultivating. The most important thing now was to reach the pseudo-sage realm. In the blink of an eye, another 17 years passed. One day, the black hell chicken, the chaotic heavenly dog, the three-headed WYRM king, the black hell demon lord, Jiang Yi, Da, and Xiao came to visit. Hanju let them enter the Taoist temple. It wasn't simple for so many people to look for him at once. Hanju looked at them and wasn't in a hurry to speak. Jiang Yi took a deep breath and said, "We want to go out." Hanju asked, "Why?" "Have broken through the seal have appeared in the world. We sense that if we devour those ferocious beasts, our potential will increase." Hanju then realized that they were all beasts themselves. He looked at the black hell chicken. The chicken stood behind the crowd, trembling nervously. Hanju smiled and asked, "You're going out, too?" Sensing Hanju's gaze, the black hell chicken swallowed and said, "Not really." The black hell demon lord said, "Let it follow us. Nothing will happen if we act together. Otherwise, with its potential, it won't be able to achieve anything in the future." Hanju didn't agree immediately but fell into deep thought. The three-headed WYRM king smiled and said, "Master, let us go. Although those beasts are strong, they're not Jiang Yi's match. We have already agreed to eat each ferocious beast together." Hanju asked in his mind, if they go out to hunt ferocious beasts, will they be controlled by the heavenly Tao? 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. No, this is only the derivation process of the heavenly Tao. It has awakened their instincts and is not the immeasurable calamity. Hanju thought for a moment and said, "Go. Be careful." The demon beasts were pleasantly surprised and promised to be careful. Hanju suddenly thought that this seemed to be the first time the black hell chicken went out. He wondered if it could overcome its psychological barrier. That day, the demons of the hidden sect left. The black hell demon lord brought the other black hell phoenixes along. 5 years later, Han Zuetian, in other words, the falling heavenly stone, successfully obtained human form. Just like that, a handsome youth appeared beside Zhou Mingyue. Wherever Zhou Mingyue went, he followed. The other disciples were very interested in this new disciple. They often came to see Han Zuetian and even taught him cultivation. Although Han Zuetian had acknowledged Zhou Mingyue as his master, he was being taken care of by the entire hidden sect. Tu Linger was always very emotional when she saw him. She thought of Long Hao. Back then, she had watched Long Hao grow up. Now that the calamity had ended and he had not returned, there was a high chance that he had died. Zhou Fan had said before that other than the heavenly race and the Providence sect, almost all living beings below the zenith heaven realm were dead. The true dragon race also suffered countless casualties. The heavenly emperor had long perished, so there was probably no one to protect Long Hao. It wasn't only Long Hao. Su Qi and Yang Tiandong had also disappeared for a long time. Almost half of the second-generation disciples of the hidden sect had died. The disciples were worried that Han Zuetian would walk Long Hao's path, so they often used Long Hao as an example to warn him. Fortunately, Han Zuetian had a gentle temperament and did not have any strong intentions. He didn't have an extreme desire to cultivate and probably did not want to go out. After the calamity ended, Hanju finally understood what it meant to live a long life of peace. The immortal world was desolate. After returning for so long, he hadn't seen anything attack the 100-peak immortal river. The entire hidden sect was very calm and peaceful. Such a period of time might last for a long time. Chu Shuren guessed that it might take millions of years before the first batch of connate life forms would appear in the immortal world. It was all thanks to the spirit chi in the Tao field that Hanju could transform so quickly. However, other than here, there was no other place in the entire immortal world that could compare to the 100-peak immortal river's immortal chi. More than 10 years later. Detected that you are 9,000 years old. You have the following choices. 1. Enter the world and enlighten all living beings to fight for heavenly Tao merit. You can obtain a great Tao fragment and a heavenly Tao spirit stone. 2. Don't enter the world for the time being and cultivate in peace. You can obtain a heavenly Tao spirit stone and a Tao field guard. Hanju sighed. Unknowingly, he was already 9,000 years old. But why did 9,000 years sound so annoying? Hanju directly chose the second option. He still obtained another pseudo-sage guard. Hanju suddenly had a bold thought. Can I choose to copy myself? No! Hanju's excitement was instantly extinguished. He could only obediently choose to copy Shirdu Dao. The new guard was called Sima Yi. At this point, Hanju had 3 guards replicas of Shirdu Dao, Zhao Yun, Dian Wei, and Sima Yi. The safety of the Dao field increased again. Hanju took out the Heavenly Dao Spirit Stone and the Book of Misfortune and started to upgrade it. The Book of Misfortune had contributed greatly to his achievements today. He had to improve it. Against a powerful enemy that far exceeded him, the effect of the Book of Misfortune was too strong. Several days later, the Book of Misfortune successfully upgraded from a Zenith Heaven Numinous Treasure to a Zenith Heaven Supreme Treasure. In order to test the effect, Hanju directly cursed Sage Fated Secrets with 1 trillion years of his lifespan. In the end, he didn't see any emails from Sage Fated Secrets. What a waste! Hanju wasn't disappointed. He was just messing with him. Something would happen sooner or later. After cursing, Hanju continued cultivating. In a hall outside the 33rd heaven, Sage Fated Secrets opened his eyes and frowned. Who is the Dark Forbidden Lord? The curse has strengthened again. It's impossible for him to cultivate so quickly. He must be very strong. Previously, I only lowered my guard against him. He's definitely a sage. Sage Fated Secrets first suspected Qiushilai. Among the heavenly Dao sages, only they had the Dao destruction mystical power. They were the greatest threat to each other, so they had no choice but to befriend each other to prevent the other from acting recklessly. Of course, there were also the other heavenly Dao sages from the 3 schools of the Dao sect. The 3 schools of the Dao sect were the orthodox lineage of the Dao ancestor. They had always had the main say among the heavenly Dao sages. They often formed cliques and colluded with other sages. Sage Fated Secrets wasn't from the 3 schools and even had little to do with the Dao ancestor. Now that he had grasped the Dao destruction mystical power, he was definitely targeted. Sage Fated Secrets felt that he had to find out the Dark Forbidden Lord's identity. Otherwise, it would definitely become a huge problem in the future. Why don't I also curse the other sages and pretend to be the Dark Forbidden Lord? I'll let them be in chaos first. This way, that fellow will easily expose himself. Sage Fated Secrets thought silently. If he was the Dark Forbidden Lord and was instead cursed, he would definitely be worried and determined that he had been discovered. He would either restrain himself for a period of time or directly fall out with them. If they really fell out, Sage Fated Secrets wouldn't be afraid of the other heavenly Dao sages. One-on-one, he was confident. Hanju couldn't help but feel relieved when he saw this email. This meant that his curse had worked. Sage Fated Secrets hated his identity as the Dark Forbidden Lord, not him. He naturally did not panic. Moreover, as long as he stayed in the Dao field, the heavenly Dao sage couldn't barge in. Hanju stopped thinking and continued cultivating. Time passed quickly after the heavenly Dao restarted. In a flash, 800 years passed. In the mortal world, 800 years was already enough to change the dynasty. Hanju was finally about to break through to the pseudo-sage realm. The negative karma that he had accumulated for several calamities was still endless. It was enough for Hanju to continue cultivating. Breaking through to the pseudo-sage realm took longer than any other breakthrough. After 20 years, Hanju finally stepped into the pseudo-sage realm. Because of the Tao field concealing the heavenly secrets, Hanju did not need to transcend the tribulation. However, the powerful aura he emitted couldn't be suppressed even by the system barrier. Everyone in the Tao field could sense it. The system barrier could only conceal the internal scene and couldn't prevent the aura from leaking out. After all, Hanju was no longer immortal. Although his aura was strong, it could not pass through the Tao field's defensive array. Master broke through again? What a powerful aura. This is definitely not something that a Zenith Heaven cultivator can achieve. He still says that he's not a sage. I don't think he's breaking through. I think he's creating a mystical power. Indeed, Sect Master's mystical powers are all extremely exquisite and unheard of. It means that he has been comprehending mystical powers while cultivating. Everyone from the hidden sect sighed at Hanju's breakthrough. This was a good thing. The stronger Hanju was, the safer they would be. At the same time, their cultivation would also be elevated. Inside the Taoist temple, Hanju checked his attributes list as he consolidated his cultivation. Name, Hanju. Race, Primordial Fiend Celestial, Immeasurable Emperor. Cultivation, early stage of the Pseudo-Primordial Chaos Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm. Technique, Primordial Chaos Reincarnation Great Tao, Heavenly Cycle Body Tempering. Great Tao of Life and Death, Great Tao of Karma, Great Tao of Extreme Origin. Pseudo-Primordial Chaos Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal. The Primordial Chaos Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm should be the Sage Realm. What a mouthful! Hanju noticed that his lifespan had increased by 10 times. 1.2 sextillion years. Who else can match me? After consolidating his cultivation, Hanju had to curse Sage Fated Secrets. It was worth mentioning that Hanju didn't receive any system notifications when he broke through to the pseudo-sage realm. Could it be that the system did not acknowledge this realm? Hanju felt a little regretful and focused on cultivating. He used 10 years to consolidate his cultivation. Then, he took out the Book of Misfortune and started cursing Sage Fated Secrets. This time, he wanted to see how many years his limit was. 5 days later, Hanju's lifespan began to decrease. He stared at his attributes panel. 100 million years. 1 billion years. 10 billion years. 100 billion years. His lifespan decreased faster and faster. Outside the 33rd heaven, Sage Fated Secrets was gathered in a stone pavilion with the South Extreme Heavenly Venerate, Sect Master Tianju, and Sage Jinan. Clouds surrounded them, and the light was dim. As they chatted, Sect Master Tianju asked, "Fellow Taoist Fated Secrets, why are you suddenly silent?" Sage Fated Secrets took a deep breath and said, "The Dark Forbidden Lord is cursing me." Dark Forbidden Lord? The three sages frowned. The sages had discussed before and discovered that the calamity had progressed too quickly. It was mainly because the Dark Forbidden Lord had cursed the various factions in the immortal world and even caused a curse trend, causing the sages to have no choice but to personally participate in order to set up their own arrangements. They had even joined forces to investigate, but they couldn't find out the Dark Forbidden Lord's true identity. Now that the Fated Secrets sage was being cursed by the Dark Forbidden Lord, this was not good. This meant that the Dark Forbidden Lord wanted to target the sages. At the thought that Sage Fated Secrets might be cursed to death by the unknown Dark Forbidden Lord, the sages couldn't help but feel desolate. They couldn't let this happen. If the sages were cursed to death in a peaceful era, where would their dignity be? Do you really think that the Dark Forbidden Lord is a heavenly Tao sage? Sect Master Tianju frowned and asked. Sage Fated Secrets asked, "Other than sages, do mortals have such methods?" As for higher existences, they don't care about the heavenly Tao. Hearing this, the three sages fell into deep thought. Sages had fought openly and secretly for countless years. They couldn't trust each other. Sage Fated Secrets was observing the three sages' reactions. They didn't know what he was thinking. The three sages actually had doubts. Could Sage Fated Secrets be pretending? Could he be acting? To be honest, I've been cursed recently, Sage Jinan suddenly said with a worried expression. Sage Fated Secrets glanced at him and asked, Really? Sage Jinan said, Yes. Like you, we're cursed once every 10 years. However, we are not cursed at the same time. The South Extreme Heavenly Venerate said, In that case, the Dark Forbidden Lord is not one of us, but another sage. Although the three schools of the Tao sect know how to fight, they never use their true strength. After all, we are bound together for good or bad. Sect Master Tianju nodded. Sage Fated Secrets cursed silently and said, In that case, I hope that the three of you can find out the Dark Forbidden Lord's true identity. All right. The three sages replied in unison. 3 trillion years. Hanju was constantly refreshing his record, but the Heavenly Tao Sage was really stubborn. Nothing happened no matter how long he cursed. Hanju wanted to test his limits. How many years of lifespan could he lose before the negative state appeared? His lifespan continued to decrease. After 10 trillion years, Hanju's heart began to tremble. Crap, he was already a pseudo-sage. Could he continue cursing endlessly? Should I persist a little longer? Hanju gritted his teeth. After deducting 15 trillion years of his lifespan, Hanju finally saw an email. Because of your curse, your enemy Sage Fated Secrets has a disrupted sage heart and developed mental demons. Hanju immediately stopped. Read the latest stories, and Nov calm his heart was still bleeding. It took him 15 trillion years to barely produce a mental demon. Was this the Heavenly Tao Sage? Hanju put away the Book of Misfortune and decided not to act recklessly in the future. This was too extravagant. Sage Fated Secrets was definitely not the last enemy. There would be stronger enemies in the future, but it was only a matter of time before they appeared. What would happen if he kept squandering his lifespan? Hanju's breakthrough speed had already slowed down. This meant that he couldn't quickly refresh his lifespan anymore. He had to stabilize himself in the future. While Hanju reflected on himself, Sage Fated Secrets panicked. He found Choshilai, and the two of them met in a golden palace. What? The Dark Forbidden Lord can curse you until you developed a mental demon? Choshilai was shocked. Compared to him, Sage Fated Secrets was stronger. If what Sage Fated Secrets said was true, the Dark Forbidden Lord would also be a threat to him. Sage Fated Secrets' expression was extremely ugly. If I lie, the Heavenly Tao's Providence will be damaged. Choshilai looked even more flustered. The Dark Forbidden Lord was definitely a sage. He might even be stronger than Sage Fated Secrets. Who was it? Then, Hanju began to cultivate the Grand Unity aspect. The 9th Fiend Celestial was the Combat Fiend Celestial. It used its fighting spirit to increase cultivation and fight till death. The 10th Fiend Celestial, the Death Fiend Celestial, transformed the Great Tao into Death Chi. The Death Chi devoured vitality and caused all things to die. The 11th Fiend Celestial, Wood Breath Fiend Celestial, had the wood origin. Its dermic powers gave birth to wood, and it imprisoned the heavens. The 12th Fiend Celestial was the Soul Fiend Celestial. It had no body and cultivated the soul. Each thought produced was boundless. The 13th Fiend Celestial was the Killing Intent Fiend Celestial. It condensed killing intent into the Tao. The stronger the killing intent, the stronger the Tao technique. Hanju used 9 years to refine 5 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols. When the 13 Fiend Celestials appeared together, they were simply unstoppable. The Fiend Celestials that Hanju currently controlled were the Heavenly Constellation Fiend Celestial, 9 Fiend Celestial, Wind Shaking Fiend Celestial, Shadow Flood Fiend Celestial, Void Fiend Celestial, Scarlet Clear Fiend Celestial, Weak Water Fiend Celestial, and Extreme Darkness Fiend Celestial, the Combat Fiend Celestial, the Death Fiend Celestial, the Wood Breath Fiend Celestial, the Soul Fiend Celestial, and the Killing Intent Fiend Celestial. He began the simulation trial. Even if he chose a pseudo-sage, he still enjoyed the feeling of brutality. It doesn't matter how powerful you are or how powerful your Dharma treasures are. In front of the 13 Fiend Celestial Dharma idols, you are nothing but an ant. Hanju tried to challenge the heavenly Tao sage, Fuxishan. Yeah. He was still killed. However, it was finally not an instant kill. Hanju lasted for 2 breaths of time. He had improved greatly. In a good mood, Hanju decided to preach the Tao to the disciples. He walked out of the Taoist temple and headed to the Fusang tree. With his cultivation level, he could teleport to the Fusang tree, but he liked to walk on foot. It was a good opportunity to stroll around. After so many years, the change to the 100-peak Immortal River was also very great. Traceless breeze lotuses were everywhere, the green lotuses on the ground emitting a dense connate chi. 100-peak Immortal River's trees were all extremely tall. The tallest tree was already more than 1,000 feet tall, but in front of the Fusang tree, they were like flowers. The Fusang tree was already 10,000 feet tall, like the oldest tree in the legends. When Hanju walked to the Fusang tree, all the disciples had already gathered. Jiang Yi, the black hell chicken, and the other beasts had yet to return, but Hanju learned from the emails that they were doing well. Their potential had been transforming by devouring the beasts. By the time they returned, they would probably have all reached the immortal Emperor realm. The era of ferocious beasts was a banquet prepared for the first batch of mighty figures of the world. To be able to stand out during this era, one's potential, strength, and combat talent must be extremely strong. With time, becoming a mighty figure that ruled the myriad worlds was not difficult. Read the latest stories, and Novi Kong Hanju began to preach the Tao. His voice resounded throughout the 100-peak Immortal River, allowing the Nether race to hear him. After reaching the pseudo-sage realm, Hanju's Tao voice had even more profundities. During the lecture, his voice greatly increased the comprehension of the listeners. His Tao technique was even more profound, and everyone could obtain enlightenment from it. This lecture lasted longer than ever. Hanju talked for 50 years. After the lecture, he returned to the Taoist temple alone. Giving a lecture to his disciples was actually equivalent to sorting out his Tao techniques and benefiting greatly. No wonder so many mighty figures like to preach the Tao. They can not only give gifts but also help increase their cultivation. Hanju smiled and closed his eyes to cultivate. In the wilderness, a long worm that was as huge as a mountain range was advancing. It was like a centipede, but its 100 feet were like the paws of a lion. As it advanced, it created a path. It seemed to be looking for food, walking and stopping. At this moment, the ground collapsed. A bloody mouth broke out from the ground and bit off this long worm, causing blood to splatter across the ground. This beast that broke out of the ground was like a bear's head. It had 8 eyes and wandered in different directions. Boom! A terrifying gust of wind descended. A pair of terrifying claws broke through the sea of clouds and grabbed the 8-eyed beast, dragging it out of the ground and flying above the sea of clouds. TSK, TSK, TSK. I, your master chicken, can eat my fill again. An extremely arrogant laugh resounded through the sky. Holding the 8-eyed beast was a huge black chicken. Black hell chicken. In front of the black hell chicken, the 8-eyed beast also appeared short. The black hell chicken flapped its wings and disappeared into the horizon. A group of people stood on the black hell chicken's back. It was Jiang Yi and the others. Blood splattered everywhere. Jiang Yi had no choice but to use his mystical power to create a protective shield to block it. Ada said unhappily, "This stinky chicken is always so exaggerated. Is it on purpose?" The chaotic heavenly dog looked at the black hell demon lord and said, "Aren't you its brother? Control it." The black hell demon lord said angrily, "How? It has always been very arrogant." The 3-headed WYRM king shouted, "It's my turn now." All of you, hold the line. Everyone was noisy. After a while, the black hell chicken finished eating the eight-eyed beast. Oh, you beasts actually have intelligence. A voice suddenly resounded through the world. Jiang Yi's expression changed slightly. He couldn't sense where the other party was. A mighty figure. Jiang Yi said loudly, Senior, we are not ferocious beasts. If it was in the past, Jiang Yi would definitely curse. However, the Golden Crow Divine Clan was suspected to be extinct now. The surviving mighty figures were existences he couldn't provoke. He had to be careful. There's also a Golden Crow. His potential is not bad. All of you can join me. The mysterious mighty figure smiled and the sky darkened. A terrifying wind appeared and swept them all into the sky. Why? Jiang Yi and the others looked up. A huge sleeve appeared in the sky, covering the sky and making it difficult to estimate its diameter. They wanted to escape, but they were suppressed by powerful dermic powers and could not move. Soon, they were swept into his sleeve. 100 Peak Immortal River. It had been 8 years since the lecture ended. Many disciples were still in a state of Tao comprehension and had yet to awaken. Hanju was cultivating when he suddenly sensed someone using the invocation technique. He counted with his fingers. It was the black hell chicken. After so many years, this was the first time the black hell chicken had used the invocation technique. Could something have happened? Although he was already invincible, Hanju still warily asked, If I go over, will I be in danger? 1 billion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. Not for the time being. Hanju heaved a sigh of relief and immediately activated all his Dharma treasures. The sun and moon yin-yang protection emitted a divine light that enveloped his body. He stood up and stepped into the black vortex. On the other side, Jiang Yi, the black hell chicken, the black hell demon lord, and the others were trapped in an open space. The ground was like jade, and the edge of the open space was dark. They couldn't see the exit. Looking up, they could see a mouth of light that was only interwoven with lightning. The black hell chicken looked nervously at the black vortex. Will Master not come? The chicken muttered. Jiang Yi and the others were also worried. At this moment, a strong light overflowed from the black vortex. Hanju stepped out. Everyone was pleasantly surprised and knelt down to him. Hanju immediately checked the surrounding enemies. Tatianj, perfected Zenith Heaven Golden Immortal Realm, Immortal of the Chan School.